Suzanne.
Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Coast to Coast Entertainment Network. I am Ace, and you're watching another episode of Sportsminute. We're joined tonight by all of our co-hosts for the evening. Number one, we have none other than Mr. Big B. Big B, how are you doing tonight, my man?
Hey, doing good. Timberwolves got the big upset. Congratulations to Chris and Will Smith, the three-time reigning World Series champion. Congratulations to him and the Texas Rangers on winning the title today. I thought it was going to go 7. I'm glad it went 5. But, hey, ready to talk some sports.
Ready to talk it. All right. And then, of course, Crispy Bacon, how are you doing tonight?
Doing good. Texas Rangers won the World Series in 5 games. I kind of predicted that on deck past weekend, I think it was. So, congratulations, Rangers. You did it.
All right. And then, of course, Mr. James, Big Game James, how are you doing tonight, my man?
Not as good as Chris, I bet. The Clippers are playing the Lakers. They're just hanging on right now. I think it's almost the end of the third quarter, so it's the Battle of LA there. I'm happy for Chris and all the Ranger fans. I don't know if you were a fan of them in 2010, 2011, but all the heartbreak you remember that. So all the heartbreak that happened. And then not getting back to the World Series after all this time and going through 100 losses a couple of years ago, and now being the champions for the first time. I'm just happy for you and all the long-suffering Ranger fans who were even there in the 90s that kept running into the Yankees, all the bad years, even before and after that. So it's a great night for them. It sucks, though, because baseball's over. I really liked watching the World Series. I don't think anybody else really watched except fans in their market. But, I was happy for Arizona, too. First time, since 2001 in the World Series. Should never made the World Series, honestly, and they did. So credit to them, but more to the Rangers and Chris.
All right, and then, of course, Mr. Mess Around Dave, how are you doing tonight, my man?
We are the champions, my friends. Congratulations, Rangers. Woo!
Right. So, look, of course, I know that, James, you're talking about you watch it, not a lot of other people did. I get it. But the thing is, if you're a baseball fan, it shouldn't matter.
Watch it.
You should still watch it. It doesn't matter.
Yeah,
it shouldn't matter if it's a small market team or whatever. You should still watch it. If you're a baseball fan, you're going to. Simple as that. But I was happy for the Rangers. I'm glad that I was happy for Arizona too that they made it. So it's I was hoping it went 7 because I wanted to see a great series, but I'm okay with it going 5. It's fine. Just sad that now we don't have baseball until April again. But it's okay. It's all right. So anyway, going in to our first topic. Well, before we get there, James, I do want to give a shout out to you just really, really quick.
The hell?
Because what?
Why?
I'm getting there.
The hell?
Because yes, exactly. Because I know you're like, what the hell's going on here? Why give me a shout out? Here's why. Because we know with you being a Raiders fan, you were not a McDaniels fan. And he's now gone. Your GM's gone, and Jimmy G's benched. So you've had a great day also. You've had a great day.
Hey,
I woke, no. I got all these messages and calls this morning from last night because it happened around 10 a.m. or 10 p.m.
Yeah.
And I was like struggling, trying to go to sleep because I had to get up early for work. And I kept seeing all these messages and texts and calls and all that, mostly from that dude Isaiah, whoever that is. Man, that was crazy. I woke up and all these people that I know, all the different fans of other teams I know, texting me, calling me, and it's like, dude, this has to feel the equivalent of winning the Super Bowl. I said, well, no, not really. It's another failure. That's what it is. But the thing is, and I don't know if we're going to talk about this later, but man, they're not only paying Gruden's contract, or a lump sum, I should say.
Oh, no.
They're paying now 4 years left of McDaniel's contract, and I know it doesn't matter with the salary cap or whatever. It doesn't matter with the players. You know, you can spend whatever you want on the coaches. But man, it's another failure. But I'm happy we're over it now and kind of start over somewhat new. We have Antonio Pierce being the intern head coach. He is a good leader. He's a good leader. And it's funny, he's going to face his old team back in the day, the Giants, on Sunday. And that'll be a home game. And I'm just hoping that the players, you could tell they were never playing for McDaniels. It started right away last year. Never played for him at all. They never wanted to play for him. They never listened to him. You could just tell, even when they won, it felt like they lost. I mean, that's how I literally feel every time. So you could just tell they didn't really like playing with him, or playing not for him, or just being his coach. So that was a late birthday gift for me. That was really good. Just so many days later, though. So no, it's not the equivalent of what Chris is feeling right now, but it's like, hey, maybe they're not going to make the playoffs. They're 3-5. A lot would have to happen, but you want to finish the year out well. You want to please Devontae Adams. You want the rookie quarterback to do well. There's a lot of hope. I think ever since McDaniels and then Ziegler's gone, that old Patriot way they were trying to instill without Brady and Belichick, the main characters, basically, that's all gone now. And maybe we can get back to a Raider way. You kind of lose that in Vegas, though. You had it in Oakland, you had it in LA, and back in Oakland. Now the opposing fans are taking over. That's what sucks. Somehow you got to get back to being the actual Raiders, whether it's being tough, whether it's just being winning. I just want to get back to that. Now, I was talking to other people. I say, well, who do you think the next coach will be? Well, it won't be Pierce next year, I don't think. They would have to win the Super Bowl, and then you sign him. But I'm hoping it's, the GM and the coach. I'm hoping it's somebody, not a big name, where, all the expectations are there and all the drama's there. We already had that with Gruden and McDaniels. I'm hoping it's not a Harbaugh. I'm hoping it's not, a college coach. I want like an offensive mind, like a McVay. And I want a general manager that really as much as I hate analytics, and I know everyone here does, you have to go with the trend. You have to go with what people are doing to win. And I'm hoping it's funny, ever since last night, it seems like, hey, there's kind of a new hope here, even though the team sucks. Maybe there's a chance they get back on track, and it starts on Sunday with a new life. Let's just say that. And I just can't wait for all the Sunday action, but especially now with the Raiders and Giants on Sunday.
All right. Well,
a breath of fresh air, you could say, huh?
Mm-hmm.
I'm definitely throwing my name in the hat there, James. So
Let's go.
James, hey, James, how would you feel about Eric Bieniemy being the next head coach?
Right away, I thought about him this morning. That sounded weird. But I said, man, he's not enjoying Washington. Sam Howell, getting sacked for a record of times, maybe, all the losses they've had lately. Maybe he's not being happy there. I think it would be a memento hire. The Raiders, Al Davis, they always stood for equality and giving people a chance no matter who they are. They just had to be a Raider or act like one, be like one, where that means something. It really means something. It did. Maybe with Bieniemy, hey, he knows the Chiefs well. I wouldn't mind having an insider, be the head coach or be a part of a Raider team that needs to beat the damn Chiefs. I'm sick of losing to everyone, but especially to the Chiefs. So I wouldn't mind Bieniemy. You would just have to pull him away from the Washington job, where I think he really likes it there, but it would be a big opportunity. And that's just funny. That's the first candidate I was thinking of for next season. I was just thinking about that. That's great, Dave. You're thinking about that.
All right. Well, since we're talking about the NFL, that kind of can transition us into our next topic, which is the NFL trade deadline, which to me is kind of interesting because there's not really a whole lot that goes on at the deadline. It's like one of those deadlines. It's there, and you're like, oh, I want to watch it just in case something happens, but then you're like, oh, not a whole lot happen. It's not like baseball to where you see so many guys getting traded from here to there and there.
Right.
You might see maybe 5 or 6 trades that come across and happen. You're like, okay, these trades happen. Okay, yippee yippee. But it's not as exciting as the MLB trade deadline for sure. This year we did get a few. James, you're just talking about Washington. Washington was one of those few teams that you clearly see go, okay, I guess we're just going to go ahead and ship some guys off. We're going to get rid of Young. We're going to get rid of Sweat. And they probably would have got rid of more if they would have had the chance to. And we know that Big B, we know that since Kirk Cousins went down for his Vikings, the Vikings decided to go out and get Dobbs because they don't know exactly what they have in their backup right now. Dobbs is going to be a better choice. So we know how that trade went. Whether or not it helps the Vikings is going to wait to be seen. We know the Lions went out and got a receiver. Brought in Donovan Peoples-Jones. The Eagles got more help. The 49ers, for the love of God, went out and got more help. And
They don't need more help.
They don't even need it, is the thing. But they went out and got more. Seattle got help. So you saw a lot of the bigger teams actually go out and get help. Sweat went to Chicago.
Why?
And like Christy said, Dallas didn't do anything. There was and then of course,
Yeah, I figured that. I figured that would happen, but
our second best corner and ship him off to Buffalo. And so to me, they're tanking without telling people they're tanking. But that's a whole nother thing. Anyway, Big B, your thoughts on the trade deadline?
Well, I mean, I think Chris posted all the trades that happened from the beginning of the year to now. I mean, there's 15 trades.
No,
I
that
can
was
count.
just
There might have
in
been some
one
we
day.
missed.
That was just in one day.
No, because you have Cam Akers on there. You have Cam Akers,
Right.
and that didn't get. Well, anyways, I mean, so it was a pretty active day for trades in the NFL. I don't expect any of the offensive side guys to start this week or even play because typically the playbooks are tough. Defensive side, if I was these teams, I'd probably let the guys go out there, here and there and play and just get, stay, especially Young and San Fran, like you said, Ace. I don't know how they pulled that one off. They're going to have some cap troubles down the road here with the teams they got. Minnesota went out and got themselves a backup that pretty much didn't cost them anything after they traded Cleveland away. Got a 6th-round pick back, so that really didn't cost them nothing. I hope Hall for Minnesota does play decent, doesn't get hurt, because after that, I mean, Dobbs is only going to have, 4 days of the playbook. So, I mean, hopefully Hall plays pretty decent, or else we're going to be looking pretty bad against the Atlanta. Outside of that, I mean, Claypool, well, that was an earlier trade, but Yeah, it was an active trade deadline. Again, not many big names moved except for the big guys from Washington that got moved. So we'll see what the teams do here going forward now because can't make any more moves. Of course, I'll be watching the quarterback situation here in Minnesota just because I want to see what happens. I have a feeling in 2 weeks Dobbs will be the starting quarterback unless Hall can keep us afloat and not make turnovers. So we'll see what happens.
All right. Crispy, your thoughts on the NFL trade deadline?
Yeah, not a lot of movement. I kind of figured Dallas wouldn't do much or anything at all. Wasn't too worried about it. I was surprised about Minnesota signing Dobbs, but no matter who starts for Minnesota, they're going up against Heineke this week for Atlanta.
Yeah, Heineke.
So it's going to be interesting. A lot of signings happened, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens down the road.
The Heineke era is back, y'all.
Just for one game.
Heineken. Mr. Heineken.
He's back, y'all. All right.
Just for a
Mr.
game.
James, Big Game James, what's your thoughts on the NFL trade deadline?
All right, so I really like what Buffalo did. They went out and got Russell Douglas from the Packers, only for a 5th-round pick. I know he's going to be a free agent at the end of the year.
We got a 3rd-round pick.
Oh, okay, and a 5th-round pick for Buffalo. I'm sorry, I didn't see that. A 3rd-rounder, and they gave Douglas and a 5th-rounder. So that's really good for Buffalo. It's good because they don't have Trey White at corner, so that's a really good thing for them. They at least get some help there. You mentioned Peoples-Jones. I thought the Lions are going to get a receiver, maybe a better one, but maybe he'll fit in really well. Yeah, I'm kind of shocked, with Washington. They got rid of both edge rushers there. Another one that I think is very important and it's going to help Trevor Lawrence is what Minnesota did or what Jacksonville did. They traded for Minnesota's Ezra Cleveland. That'll be good for the offensive line there. I really enjoyed that trade because that was really needed. Let's see. Seahawks, yeah. When they got Leonard Williams, that's really going to help up front. I like that. What was it last week when the Titans traded Kevin Byard to Philadelphia? That was really good because I feel like Philly was giving up a lot of yards through the air, but not on the ground, of course. You'll see that maybe with Dallas on Sunday. Maybe Byard will play a big role. That'd be really good. Hartman going back to Kansas City. I thought they were going to get another receiver. They had one with legal trouble now, so luckily they have Hartman there. But really, that was only ones that I saw, lately that was really good. But you mentioned San Francisco. Man, not only do they have Chase Young, but remember they got Gregory, the linebacker from Denver, who's already making plays.
Yeah.
So that's San Francisco is big winners of the trade deadline, and then probably Philadelphia, I would say maybe is another big winner. But I think the really underrated one was Buffalo getting Russell Douglas. I really like that move.
All right, mess around. Trade deadline.
It's all about for me. It's Montez Sweat, baby. No, honestly, going into the deadline, like I said on Tailgate, I thought we were going to get Chase Young, but like I said in the chat, I think Ryan Poles was a little afraid to pull the trigger on trading for another guy named Chase. So he didn't want to go for another guy named Chase, so he went for Sweat. And they said that they're already trying to get a long-term deal done with him, so it's not going to be a rental. And even if they couldn't get him signed, they can always use his franchise tag. I mean, it's not going to do anything for this year, but they were going to go out and try and get him next year anyway, so why not trade for him when, you may not get him in free agency because somebody can offer him that deal that he wants. Like, I guess he was saying he wanted to go play for the Falcons. he didn't want to end up in Chicago. So happy with the move. It gives us another guy up front to rush the passer. We only have 10 sacks as a team all year, and Montez Sweat by himself has 6.5.
All right. So we kind of heard our thoughts on the trade deadline, and again, it's one of those things that you don't really have a lot to say about it because it's just there's really not a lot of big moves going on. I kind of wish there was, but in the end, there's really not. So going into our next one, we know about the accident that happened in hockey, and the player died because his throat got cut with the skate. So my question is, should NHL or just hockey in general make it mandatory for somebody to wear a neck protector, so when a skate comes up like that, it can't go across the, because we've seen it happen before. This isn't the first time it happened. This is the first time that I remember somebody dying from it right there, um, but people's necks have been cut before off of it. So Crispy, when it comes to hockey, do you feel like, yeah, hockey needs to institute the rule of the neck guard?
Uh, yeah, I would think so. I think I saw something that in a minor hockey league, they're already making it a mandatory kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was the Western Hockey League, but
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I think it should be required.
All right. James, your thoughts. Is this something that should be a mandatory requirement?
Whew. I think over time, I think we mentioned this with soccer getting rid of the
The header?
headers. Yeah. So eventually, like football had helmets and better helmets and better headgear and protection because players were dying. Well, this is just another prime example, unfortunately. I can remember years ago, somebody sent me a video or showed me a video of a goalie getting cut there. And I don't know what team it may have been Buffalo. I don't know, whoever was blue and yellow back in the day, but then he started to bleed all over and they had to, rush him and they saved him. But yeah, you can't take any damn chances. This was I didn't even know what the hell was going on. Then I read about it yesterday, and I was struck by the news. I didn't like what I was reading. So yeah, I think if everybody else is going to do it now, you would think the best league in the hockey world would do it. I would think so.
All right. Mess around. Should it be mandatory?
Yeah, I mean, all these leagues they talk about player safety, right? And it's like their number one priority. So you would think it would have already been mandatory for that reason alone, because the skates are awfully sharp and they can really do some damages, obviously with the player dying. So I would have thought this would have been done years ago.
You would have thought that too, but since they hadn't had a tragedy by it, they were probably just buying time, being like, we haven't really had a tragedy, so why push the issue? But now that you've had one, but it is under investigation though, because they do feel like there might have been a little bit of sketchiness in how everything happened. But anyways, Big B, your thoughts? Do you think that hockey should mandate this?
Well, first off, thoughts goes out to the Minnesota native because he was from Minnesota. But outside of that, I don't know. I never played hockey. I mean, I skated around, played, little pickup games. Had cousins play, had some good friends play hockey. So it's tough because this happened once. I mean, yeah, you probably got cut in the neck here and there, but one out of how many years? I mean, it is tragic. I could see them doing something. Possibly they can I could see if they can come up with something, because what I'm thinking is, if you got like some kind of neck brace, you can't move your head that much, so it would probably have to be something that's attached to a shoulder pad, something maybe not so up by the chin. It'll probably be something. I think, like Chris said, I think they're going to test it in some minor leagues, which is fine. And then I think possibly if that all goes well, they can get their vision and be able to move their neck and stuff as they're skating around. Then possibly the NHL might have it recommended but not mandatory. I can honestly see like the Olympics making it mandatory first. Just because we want all our best players out there, but yet we don't want anything serious to happen. So I could see the Olympics possibly making it mandatory first before the NHL. I could see them, if they can figure out some kind of device that could help them, still maneuver around and, tight. I could see something happening down the road.
Well, yeah, it's kind of like when Earnhardt died in NASCAR, and they came out with the Hans device, that you had to have the Hans device around your neck to protect your neck so you didn't get whiplash, your head didn't go back and bang off the roll bar in the back. You're
I just don't want them to overreact.
Yeah, but now I know you're saying that you don't want hockey to overreact. I get it. And a lot of people don't want them to go out and overreact to it. It is a tragedy. And so I think that they might face some backlash for it and be like, okay, what are you going to do for player safety? How are you going to keep them safe? And again, there might be players out there that might be like, well, it hasn't been an issue until now, so why are we jumping the gun and doing it? And I get it, but then you have one tragedy, and who's to say you might not have another?
Yeah.
And so from prevent it from happening again, you have to think, what is the best course of action? How are you going to prevent it from happening again in the future? By maybe taking this step and being like, yeah, we need to give them maybe not technically a neck brace to hold you still, but some kind of padding around the neck. Like, I feel like they should tell you have to wear something around the neck that's going to protect you from
like what linebackers in football use.
I mean,
something
I don't know.
that, but
I could see some kind of test device coming, maybe towards the end of the year, like around January, after everybody kind of investigates and sees what could work. I could possibly see some players starting to wear stuff in practice to test it and see what goes on. I mean, we just all don't know right now. I mean, because it's a week or two old, and
not even that.
Like we said, we don't want to see them overreact. Because I think when she brought up Earnhardt, I think the next race or two races in, everybody had to wear the Hans device, or they had to get some kind of neck brace.
Yeah, well, if you remember, the Hans device had already come out at that time, but they said it was optional. They said if you wanted to wear it, you could.
Gotcha.
And then Earnhardt said, "I'm not gonna wear it because I haven't been wearing it forever." And then Earnhardt's accident happened, and then after his accident happened was when NASCAR said, "Okay, we have these out, and they were optional, but they're no longer optional; they are now mandatory." And so,
I think the reports came out too that after a while, I think they said the Hans device wouldn't have prevented it. As maybe he wouldn't have died, but he might have been paralyzed or something.
They said it would have saved his life from dying, but other than that, though, he still would have been hurt. But this is where the NHL could experiment.
Yep.
Be like, hey, let's throw some experiments out there and see what we can come up with safe measures so this type of stuff doesn't happen again. It's just food for thought. So it's going to be interesting to see where they go with it and how far they take it. All right. So going into our next one, we were kind of talking about this before it started, how we're talking about the World Series and it being like the least viewed World Series because it was small market teams and things like that. And people, there was even somebody who when people go, oh, how do you solve this problem? Somebody actually had the audacity to say it's a simple fix. You let every team on the West Coast play in a tournament, and the team on the West Coast that wins the tournament gets an automatic bid in the World Series. That way a West Coast team is automatic. And I'm like, that's the dumbest thing that I've heard. And the person said, no, it's not, because it'll bring viewership. I'm like, are you kidding me? That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Why would you just say for the West Coast teams they get a tournament and they get a free pass, and they don't have to play through the playoffs? That's dumb. So, Big B, I will start with you on this one though. Do you think that this is a kind of an overreaction, that this is, and people's takes, and what's your take on it?
It's a big overreaction because, I mean, okay, yes, we can all agree that when the big markets are in the championship games, it's watched because of the big markets. You know, it's not just any fan base is going to go watch, you know, the games. I mean, you know, NBA, if the Lakers are in it, Boston's in it, they're gonna draw. Same with football. You know, you get, well, not so much the Patriots anymore, but you get those teams like Kansas City's, you get the New York teams in there. It's because of the market. You know, baseball. You know, I laughed at that. I think Ace, you posted it, or I also saw it somewhere else too. And you know, I mean, okay, let's throw your idea out there. You want a small tournament for the East Coast teams. What about the West Coast team? What about the East Coast team, the New Yorks and all those teams? I mean, that's a big market out there. You know, it's just a fan base that got butthurt because their team didn't make it. Yeah, I mean, you know, Texas and Arizona, not the biggest markets. Texas should be a pretty decent sized market. Arizona's still a young franchise per se, and they've been in there a couple times. I mean, you know, it is what it is. The best two teams made it to the World Series. That's all that happens. You know, it's too bad that Dodgers can't make it every year. Too bad the Yankees can't make it every year. Boston, I mean, you know, but true baseball fans are going to watch the World Series no matter who's in there because we want to cap off the long
Season, yeah,
marathon of the season and watch championships games. So,
and
you know.
and there's this little thing, I want to throw out there. There's this little thing, and it's called streaming. So the reason I'm throwing streaming out there is because they're talking about people watching that they can actually keep tabs of, people on cable and satellite and things. So those are viewership just based off that. Since a lot of things have switched to streaming, they can't count those viewerships because they don't know how. There's no numbers that populate and show you how many people are watching it off streams. That's the big thing, is how many people are actually watching it off that. That's something
you're right there. And then how many people recorded the game and is going to watch on the replay when they get home from work?
Exactly. So those are things that people don't think about. They see these low numbers, like, okay, but people could be watching it more. They could be watching it. And we don't know, just off different things.
Missed that play. Ooh.
So we'll come back to Crispy, since the Rangers are his team. We'll come back to that. James, do you think that this is kind of an overreaction?
I think it just depends what media coverage it is. When the Clipper game went in the commercial, I went back to FS1, and I noticed the families and everybody celebrating on the Rangers, and I'm thinking, it doesn't matter what championship it is, everybody celebrates the same, and it could be in any market. So you just want your market to make it and win it all. So that should never matter. And yeah, I think I was taught at a young age, it's like, hey, watch the World Series no matter what, or watch all the championships, right? All the championship games. And then the old rule is like, hey, support your league. If you're an Angel fan, you go for the American League team. Or let's say if you're a Padre fan, you go for the National League team. I don't do that. I have my favorites and I have my hated teams, and Texas was one of them just because they should be the Angels should be them, basically. They did all the right things the Angels didn't. So it's like, man, that should be me. I should be Chris right now with the hat on. But yeah, I just think since Arizona got in, that was a downgrade. I don't care if you're a big fan of baseball. You're going to have your casuals out there that say, wait, I didn't know there was a team in Arizona. They better have a roof over their stadium. So, I kept hearing that crap where it was just the casuals saying, well, I'm not going to watch. I know Texas is going to win. It would have been better if Philadelphia did make it. It would have been a better series and a more popular series just based on the stars that Philadelphia had. That would have been cool seeing them go against the Ranger stars. So I think it just depends who you talk to or what qualification someone has. But to me, man, I don't care if it was the lowest rated. I was part of the rated. I watched every damn game. I got home early enough to get, my snacks and my dinner ready to watch every game. I was ready for each game. I said, damn, I can't wait because I know this will be the end of the season. And this is where I want to be. I think it just depends who you talk to.
No, I get it, but I was glad the Phillies didn't make it because
Yeah.
Arizona deserved it, though. They did.
Oh, no doubt. And you know what, too, Ace? Let me say this. If we were going to have crowds like the Tampa Bay Rays did in that wild card series in this World Series in Arizona, where there was a bunch of empty seats and no one cared, then you can say, okay, we have a massive problem, and it has to do with the fan base. You can definitely say that. But you saw that crowd in Arizona. It was sold out these two games. No problem. Maybe mostly it was Ranger fans, but hey, it was sold out. So there's not a problem. It's just casuals not watching. That's what I think it is.
Mm-hmm. All right. Mess around. Do you think that this is a overreaction?
Yeah, I was thinking about what you were saying. I don't know if anybody else said it, but the guy whoever posted was talking about the West Coast team should automatically get a berth in the World Series. How would that be fair to all the other teams in the AL, like the Midwest teams and the East Coast teams? That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. You're going to put a West Coast team in just because they're on the West Coast. Like, that's not fair to the other teams that I just said. That is so dumb. I mean, if you're going to do that, you might as well not even have a season for the other teams in the Midwest and the East Coast in the AL. Dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Exactly.
So stupid, but yeah, just that's all I got to say about it. Just the stupidest thing I've heard all day.
Yeah, but I was going to say, do you think it's an overreaction that people are making a big deal that this is the lowest watched World Series ever?
Yeah, I mean, the both teams deserve to be there. They proved it by playing the games. They won the games. They got them there. I mean, if they deserved it, they would have lost those games. So I think it's a huge overreaction. And congrats to Texas for winning, though. I'm happy for them. They've never won it before, so kudos to them. And it's a great year for Arizona. Nobody thought they'd be there either. Exactly. I mean, everybody on this panel, nobody on this panel can say they had the Diamondbacks penciled for the World Series.
Exactly, right. And I think the dumb thing is I think people definitely overreact, and I think people get angry because they're like, well, that's not my team. My team isn't in it. So because my team's not in it, I don't care. Okay,
I know people like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Then you're not a baseball fan.
I hate those.
Because if you were a baseball fan, you would watch it. It wouldn't friggin' matter if your team's in it or not. If you don't, you're just a casual, and that's. And it's like, no, you have to be. Those diehard fans will actually sit there and actually watch it and be like, yeah, my team's not in it. It doesn't matter. I'm gonna watch it. So, going into our next topic, and of course, this deals with James's team, because it was going on forever that James Harden wanted to get traded, and there was no way that the relationship with the 76ers was going to get fixed, and we knew he was going to get traded. We knew he wanted to go to the Clippers. We just didn't know if and when it was going to happen. And then eventually we know that it ended up happening, but we know he's not playing tonight. I haven't heard when he's actually supposed to be out there and playing again. But anyways, so since this is James's team, we can kind of start with him. And James, what's your thoughts on the James Harden trade since he came to your Clippers?
Man, I was like, damn it. Eventually, I knew it was going to happen. And the saga before the trade, was horrible because Harden was trying to get on the team plane to go to Milwaukee for the opening game, but they didn't allow him on. After he spent 10 days away from the Sixers, after leaving practice all of a sudden. So I thought, oh, no, we're getting someone that's going to be a tyrant. That's just going to be, distracting. But hopefully he can come in and just come off the bench and do well. I want him to come off the bench. I don't know if he will, though. I don't think he will. I think he'll demand to start, and it's going to be a lot of ISO ball. That's all I know. It's going to be a lot of damn ISO ball. I mean, the NBA already is. It's not really there's not too much team ball anymore. Except if you're maybe the Nuggets. I love how their offense goes. Anyway, the trade, just getting to that. And Harden, I don't think is ready yet. Maybe in another week he'll play a game. I could be wrong, but the Lakers are about to win, by the way. Damn it. So PJ Tucker also came with James Harden. And then this other dude named Flip I'm not even gonna say that. It's something Russian, probably. Anyway, those three came to the Clippers. Marcus Morris Sr., Robert Covington, Nick Batum, and KJ Martin. Those are all guys that eventually would be gone after next year. Covington, they re-signed him, and they didn't even use him. Basically, last year. He was basically third string, and I thought he was going to play a more important role. So it was a waste of even having him. And then Marcus Morris Sr. just seemed to be in the way of all these other small forwards. So Batum also, he was getting older, and he's another small forward. So there was too many small forwards on the team anyway. So they had to get some more scoring and more reliable scoring. So I think with Harden, you get that. And then with PJ Tucker, even though he's another small forward, you're going to use him because he's a great defensive player. All the players that left, though, I'm not really hating. There was a trade proposal, I think, in the preseason where it was 2 first-round picks and Terrence Mann. And I thought, you just signed Mann to a long-term deal. You do not want to get rid of him, because he's going to be the future. So you don't want that to happen. The other picks are there, but they don't really mean much because Philadelphia is also trying to be good as well. They're going to trade one of those first-round picks they got from the Clippers to try to get a player that can go with Harden and Maxey and Tobias Harris in Philadelphia. So look out for that, for Philly to be out there to maybe get someone from another team that could come in and just work well with the Sixers. It's a good trade, but it's only good if the Clippers win it all. And it has to be this year because Kawhi and Paul George might not be around too much longer after next year. Russell Westbrook, the same thing. When you have those 4 guys, you have to win the championship. And then when you think about it, too, it's a great team, but in 2015 or 2017, right? Because they were all superstars of their own teams back then. You remember Kawhi with the Spurs, Paul George with the Pacers, Westbrook with the Thunder, and then Harden with the Rockets. Now they're older in 2023, so we got them all together, but they're older now. They could break down at any time, so that's what I'm worried about. So it's only good if they win. For this trade, it's only good if they win the whole damn thing.
All right, next round, your thoughts on the trade?
Well, like James alluded to, when they didn't let him on that plane, the writing was on the wall. You knew his days in Philly were numbered. He was never going to play another minute for that team once they wouldn't let him on the plane. And everybody assumed he was going to go to the Clippers, which, eventually did. And I know James was saying Philly's going to try and get somebody else. There's rumors that they're going after Zach LaVine from the Bulls.
Yeah.
I don't know how I feel about that, but, got to break up the Bulls because they're not doing anything anyway.
I agree.
All right, Big B, your thoughts on the trade?
I messaged James right away and asked what his thoughts were, and he pretty much said exactly what he said to me. For me, I mean, just looking at the possible lineup the Clippers could have, George, then Leonard, Harding, Westbrook, all on the court at the same time. Heck, I'll play center for him because I don't need to score. But I mean, if those four can get along and get the ball around, sky's the limit for that team. But like James said, it's probably going to be a lot of ISO. It's going to be like, I'm going to try to one-up you because you scored 2, so I'm going to score 3. Oh, you got this, so I'm going to get this. I mean, just looking at the stats just from today's game, George had 32, Leonard had 30, Westbrook had 24. That was the majority of the scoring between those guys, or between the whole team. So now you bring Harden in, who's going to want to score. Where are you going to get the points at? So, I mean, if they can get it to work, I think we said that last year with Dallas when they got the big guy over there. If they get it to work, great. If not, if they can't get it to work, it's going to be a battle. I mean, Minnesota's looking at that right now with Ant, Towns, Gobert, even Nas to a certain extent, trying to get everybody to get along and pass the ball around. As far as I know, I mean, I'm not a big basketball guy. There's only one ball on the court. Not everybody's going to be able to score. So you gotta get along and you gotta make it work out. If it does, more power to the Clippers because I think they definitely need to upstage that other LA team that really nobody likes. So hopefully it works out for them.
All right, Crispy, how about you?
Yeah, I was kind of interested in the James Harden trade. I think ESPN's Woj was like waiting at the airport, waiting on Harden or waiting on the news to break, and it's going to be interesting. I know this is his third, fourth team in 4 or 5 seasons, so it's going to be an interesting. We're going to say season or a couple months. I don't know.
All right, so that was our thoughts on the trade. But before we go on, James, I will tell you that I am happy for you that maybe the Clippers now have a team that you guys can do something with, and I'm hoping that maybe you guys can. It might be that time. Mess around. I do agree with you though about your Bulls. It is time, I think, to just let it go. Just blow it up and just restart because nothing. And we know that the last time Lonzo Ball had an interview. Well, I'll just say Ball in general had an interview. He came out and said, "Oh yeah, this team is still. They built this team around me, and so they're still playing the same game with or without me. Whether or not I agree with that, is one thing, but I don't know."
I just thought about something, as we're talking. This week has been all about James's sports teams. You know, you got the Raiders, you got the Clippers. I just saw a report the other day that Anaheim's looking at a Torrey Hunter possibly being the new manager there. So, James, you got a lot of looking forward to rebuilding over there with your teams, man.
It's not fun because there's a lot of uncertainty. And then with that, quickly, just with the Angels, man, as we go to overtime, 117 all, Lakers Clippers. Wow, the Clippers made a comeback. No, I don't know how I feel about former players never being an MLB manager before becoming an MLB manager. So I really don't. I don't really like Hunter or Salmon or Erstad being a manager. I pretty much, again, I want Ron Washington, if not maybe Showalter, or just someone that will go with the front office with the analytical BS. But, man, there's a lot of uncertainty with my teams, and it just seems to always be that way. And then it ends up just being failure as well.
Wow.
Don't forget that.
All right. So before we go ahead and wrap this up, we do have one final topic that we can run through pretty quick if we need to here. But it's the best team you've ever seen that did not win a championship. And James, I know typically you study for these. So for you, who would you say is probably the best team that you've ever seen that has not won a championship? It doesn't matter what sport it is.
Okay, probably for the NBA. Now, I didn't see him live, of course. I wasn't around in 1969 or 70. But those Laker teams that had Will Chamberlain, Elgin Baylor, and Jerry West, Gail Goodrich, you would have thought the big three of those guys with Gail would have won a championship. But it was Bill Russell Celtics being them, the 70 Knicks. So I feel like those are – in football, I would say maybe those Buffalo Bill teams of the 90s that went to 4 straight Super Bowls. It seems they always had the best of the AFC offense and defense, but they could never win this actual damn Super Bowl. For baseball, man, it was good that the Braves, the 90 Braves at least won one. But maybe, God – the 1988 Oakland A's, they were the heavy favorites over the Dodgers, and they lost in 5 games to the miracle LA Dodgers. That series I watched during the pandemic, and I still couldn't believe it because the Dodgers basically just had Kirk Gibson and a bunch of young guys. Oakland had, Canseco, McGuire, Steinbeck, all these great pitchers, Dave Stewart. There's no way they should have lost to him. And they were the best team that year, and they lost to an underdog Dodger team in '88. So those are my 3 in each of the sports.
All right, so running through mine really quick. For mine in baseball, it's the Seattle Mariners when they won it was 2001 when they had an extremely good team and they lost to the Diamondbacks. That was a team that I'm like, how'd you not win? How did you not win that? In football, I would probably go the 2007 Patriots when they were undefeated. Yep, when they went undefeated and did not win it. I know they won Super Bowls before, but that team
undefeated at that point.
Yeah, at that point, and I was like, man, they could not they could not get the job done. They just couldn't do it.
Helmet catch.
Basketball was probably the year that the Golden State Warriors had. It was like 73 wins, I do believe. And
2016.
2016, and they did not win a championship out there. And then last year in hockey, with the Boston Bruins, when they were just above everybody, had by far the best hockey team I've ever seen, and they ended up choking and losing. So mess around. The best teams that you've ever seen to never win a championship.
See, this is why we're best friends, because you just stole every single answer I just had.
That's funny.
But I'll change my basketball one. I'll go with the Kings back in 2000, 2001 or whatever when they played the Lakers in the Western Conference Finals. That team was so good, and I cannot believe they didn't win it all.
Yeah, you could even put Prime Harden on the Rockets when the Rockets had that extremely good year, and they shot their way out of the Western Conference Finals with shooting threes like crazy and just couldn't hit them. That you could have counted them too. Big B, how about you?
Well, I could sit here and just name off all
The
my
Vikings.
local teams that haven't done nothing since '91. But all seriousness, I mean the the Buffalo Bills, the Patriots, where they were a catch away to do it, but basketball, I guess the Golden State Warriors, but I will take the homer pick in this one. I think the Timberwolves, when they had Garnett, Sprewell, and Sam Cassell, I think that was a good team that should have done it. But I gotta say, baseball. I know Ace. They did win one during the '90s, but that '90s Braves dynasty there, they should have won way more World Series than just the one. And I will admit they probably should have won '91 too, but that they should have won more. I think the Braves and Mariners for sure, but I just think that Braves dynasty should have had chalked up at least 3 World Series.
Honorable mention would be 1997 in Cleveland in the World Series.
Right. And I think the one team that I would say probably in football too as an honorable mention, Big B, your Minnesota Vikings. The year they went 15, like
98.
15-1 short, like just heavily favored, man, over everybody. Like they couldn't be stopped. And
well, that was Dennis Green. You got the best receiver in the league blown by everybody. He wants to run the ball. Let's run the ball, run the ball, run the ball.
Right, there you go.
Yeah.
All right, Crispy, how about you?
I know it's already taken, but I'll take any of the Super Bowls the Buffalo Bills were in. I'll go 2011 Rangers.
Oh, come on. They just won one. Give it
I
to
know.
them.
No, come on.
2020 Stars, because that was in the bubble. I know that one was difficult.
I mean, and when you think about it, you could even throw in the Dodgers of last year.
Yeah.
When the Dodgers won like 112 games or something like that.
2011 Miami Heat, the first season of the Big Three.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
did the Mavericks beat them in 5? Yeah.
Yeah, that was something that nobody expected. That one, nobody.
Hey, I called the Mavericks in 5 before that series started.
Wow.
That was the one to where Dirk, like, I felt like Dirk single-handedly won that.
Yeah.
Like he single-handedly won that series. All right.
Yeah.
So we're definitely we're at the end of the show now. So Big B, your final thoughts.
Final thoughts is this has been a tough week, I think, for the sports industry plus entertainment. Had some big names pass away. Just Bobby Knight today. No matter what, if you feel affected by it, go ahead and throw your feelings out. I know a lot of people come to me and go, "Why do you care if so and so died? You never met him." Well, but I grew up watching them, grew up idolizing them, so just, if you feel the need to grieve, go ahead and grieve. Thoughts and prayers goes out to all those families and fan bases, but keep joining us, C2C. We got a lot of things going. We got a lot of things brewing. congrats, Chris and the Rangers, and Will Smith on winning another ring. So we'll see y'all next week.
All right, Crispy, any final thoughts?
You're on mute, buddy.
Thanks for everyone for watching, tuning in. A lot of great shows coming. Some shows reviving, and just stay tuned.
All right, Mr. Big Game James.
Okay, so yeah, credit to Chris. We're gonna have our final on deck show Saturday. Then Entertainment Hour will be back with Dragon Viper. Yeah, what else? Oh yeah, food reviews will probably come out. I'm gonna send those to Chris, and that would be like a weekday, hopefully a daily thing. That would be on the network, so that would be cool. So many things to try. Also, yeah, the Bobby Knight, death. I didn't even realize until Chris put that in the chat, and then some other people mentioned it to me. Because I thought, man, he was such a tyrant, and I would hate playing for him. And then I kind of appreciated him, as I got older, and said maybe those young kids needed a swift kick in the what. But man, the greatest story I heard Bobby Knight tell was about Michael Jordan and how he was coaching him in the Olympics, and they were playing the NBA stars like Magic Johnson, Isaiah Thomas, and others, and Larry Bird, I think. And Isaiah mentioned, "Hey, who's good on your Olympic team?" And he said, "This guy Jordan over here, he's a little different now. You're really going to have to guard him or be." He's a little different. He's going to kill you. And then there's another story where he's like, man, he was doing everything so right during one of the Olympic Games, Michael Jordan was, that Bobby Knight had to yell at him for like, hey, you're not saying the screen right. And then he did that perfectly. So those are stories I remember about Bob Knight, among others.
All right, mess around. Your final thoughts.
So my final thoughts. So I was scrolling Facebook today. And you know how you get those memories that pop up from time to time? Well, I got one today from 3 years ago on me and the Vic do a morning tailgate on this very day. Just her and I. It just kind of hit me in the feels, I was like, oh wow, I didn't remember we did a show just her and I together. So we still miss you, Vic. We still think about you.
Absolutely. All right, so we do want to thank everybody for watching. It's been another fun episode of Sports Minute. You can catch us next week again for another episode of Sports Minute. So with that, everyone have a good night, and we'll see you next Wednesday.